I'm going to give a very short intro on Mr. Arvind Kejriwal. Arvind Kejriwal is an Indian social activist and a crusader for greater transparency in the government. After graduating as a mechanical engineer from IIT Kharagpur, he joined Indian Revenue Services in 1992 as a tax officer. While he was working there, he found that having not enough transparency is the reason behind the corruption. So he started, in 2000, he started Parivartan, a Delhi-based citizens movement, trying to ensure just, transparent and accountable government. Based on his initial work, he was encouraged by the changes that he had implemented in his own division. So he started studying, took 2 years about corruption, and he started to become a full-time social activist. And Mr. Kejriwal and Parivartan have been very successful in their activities, especially with electricity department and tax department. They have settled close to 2,500 grievances with the electricity department and close to 700 in tax department. And also together with other NGOs, Arvind Kejriwal has worked on the Right to Information Act, which was passed in 2005. And of course, you know that for the extensive social causes that he has been working on, he has been bestowed with Ashoka Fellow in 2004, Satyendra Dubey Award in 2005, Magsaysay Award in 2006. It's a pleasure for me to invite Arvind Kejriwal. Let's welcome Arvind Kejriwal.
Thank you so much, and a very good evening to all of you. I am very grateful to Asha, Aid and other organizations who hosted this evening and provided this opportunity to talk to you all. Basically, we work on right to information in India, and this is a law that was passed by the Indian Parliament last year. But before I speak about right to information, I would like to briefly discuss about the background of right to information, how this law came about, what is this law about, what are the provisions, and what is the philosophy behind this law. Every citizen in India basically pays a tax. Even a beggar on the street pays a tax when he goes to buy a piece of soap, or he buys a matchbox, or he buys anything. Because he pays sales tax, he pays excise duty, and he pays so many other taxes. And this money collected by the government from even the poorest of the poor belongs to the people. It doesn't belong to any bureaucrat, it doesn't belong to any politician. It belongs to the people of the country. The people are the masters, and the government exists to serve them. And I'm sure you would agree that it is the duty of a master to take accounts from his servant from time to time. But in the last 55 years, the master, that is we, the masters, never took accounts from a servant. Not because we didn't want to do that. We always wanted to do it. There's so much of corruption around. We always wanted to take accounts of every penny of the tax that we pay to the government. But we couldn't do that earlier because there was no method available. There was no legal method, there was no administrative method available through which we could demand accounts from the government. Imagine if you went to any government office and you asked the deputy commissioner or the assistant commissioner or an executive engineer that I am the master and you are my servant, and now you may show me all your accounts, he'll throw you out of his office. But now with Right to Information Act, it is possible to ask accounts from every government department. It was as early as in 1976 that for the first time, Supreme Court of India said that right to information is a part of our fundamental rights. The Supreme Court said that under Article 19(1) of the Constitution, people have a freedom of speech and expression. And you cannot speak and you cannot express yourself unless you know. So right to know or right to information is embedded in our fundamental rights. And in the same judgment, Supreme Court further said that because we live in a democracy, and in a democracy the people are the masters and the government is a servant, the master has a right to know how the servant is functioning. And because we pay taxes, the people have a right to know how their taxes are being used. Now, though the Supreme Court said that in 1976, the Supreme Court said this, that it is a part of our fundamental rights, but the people still could not use it because there was no machinery available using which the people could exercise this right to information. Again, if someone went to the government department and said that right to information is my fundamental right, now you show me all your files, they will not show it to us. So Right to Information Act, which was passed by the Parliament last year, actually provides that machinery. It lays down that there will be an officer in every department, this is the format of an application, there will be a fees. So using this machinery, we can exercise our fundamental right to information. How did this law come about? This law didn't come out of vacuum. It is a long struggle by the poorest people in our country which led to the passage of this law. And it all started in 1990 by an organization called MKSS, led by Aruna Roy. Aruna Roy was an IAS officer who quit IAS officer, and she went and started living in villages. In 1990, some villagers, some laborers, some farmers under the leadership of Aruna Roy started demanding that they should get minimum wages. We have a minimum wage act which says that at the end of the day, after a hard day's labor, a person should get at least this much of money as his wages. But in many government works, at that time the minimum wage used to be 22 rupees a day. And in many government works, after the hard day's labor, they used to be given just 11 rupees a day. And when the people started demanding that they should get minimum wages, the government officers would get back and say that you people didn't do your job properly and you are lazy and therefore you deserve only 11 rupees. So when they were given 11 rupees, they would turn around, this organization encouraged them to turn around and question that if we are lazy, if we didn't do our job properly, and if you're giving us 11 rupees, we want to see the government accounts as to how much have you entered in our name in the accounts. The accounts are called muster rolls. In muster rolls, you enter the details of how much have you given to each daily wage laborer. And when they demanded inspection of muster rolls, the government officers got back and said that, sorry, muster rolls are secret. So the villagers said that how can muster rolls be secret? It contains the details of our wages, it contains the details of our labor, it contains our signatures. How can these muster rolls be secret from us? So it was this demand for inspection of muster rolls in 1990 which slowly snowballed into a full-fledged right to information movement across the country. And in the last few years there were several protests, etc. And finally we have a Right to Information Act now. Now there are more than 68 countries across the world who have right to information laws. And let me just tell you that Right to Information Act in India is the best law in the world. What does this law say? This law says it gives you 5 rights. Number 1, you can ask for any information from any government department. Number 2, you can ask for inspection of any government documents. Number 3, you can ask for photocopies of any government documents. Number 4, you can ask for inspection of any government works. Now this particular right is unique to India. It means that if you have a road constructed in front of your house, you can actually say that I would like to come and inspect this road, and the government will have to allow you inspection, and some officer will actually get that road inspected from you. And number 5, you can ask for sample of material used in any government work. This is also unique to India. It does not exist in too many other laws in the world. This law says that in every government department there will be an officer designated as a public information officer, and if you want any information from that department, on a plain piece of paper you make your application telling that what information you want, and you submit with that particular officer. And there is a 10 rupees application fees, and that officer is required to provide information in 30 days time. And if he doesn't give that information, the law says that his salary would be deducted at the rate of 250 rupees per day of delay. It also says that if he provides you false information, then a penalty up to maximum of 25,000 rupees could be imposed upon him, which would be deducted from his salary. This is the only clause because of which this law works, and there is no other law. There are many good laws which have been passed by our parliament, and no other law has worked. It's only because of this clause that this particular law is functioning. I think this is the only law, if in fact after independence, which directly relates the performance of an officer to his salary. that if he doesn't provide you information in 30 days, his salary would be deducted. It also says that if you are not satisfied with the information that you get in 30 days time, you can file an appeal with an information commission. Information commissions have been set up in every state and at the central level, and they are supposed to pass orders. If you file an appeal, if you're not satisfied with information, they are supposed to pass orders on that, and they also have the power to impose this penalty on the guilty officials. Now these are broad provisions of the law. Before the Central Act was passed, Central Act became effective on 13th October last year. Now the central law is applicable to the entire governance all across the country. It's applicable on central government, it's applicable on state governments, it's applicable on local bodies, public sector units, banks. It's applicable on every sphere of governance. But before the central law was passed, there are some state governments who had passed their own laws much earlier. There were actually 9 state governments who had passed their own laws much earlier. So there is an experience of how Right to Information Act functions in these 9 states. Delhi has a law since the year 2001. And I would like to share some of these experiences of how people have used Right to Information Act in Delhi. I would like to start with the example of a daily wage laborer called Nannu. He lives in East Delhi and he had a ration card. Does everyone know what a ration card means? Okay. He had a ration card. He lost his ration card and he applied for a duplicate ration card in January 2004. Now according to the rules, he should have got his ration card in 10 days time. But for 3 months he kept running around, and perhaps there was an expectation of bribe. He didn't have the money to pay bribe. And many times when he would go to the department, they would not even allow him to enter the department because he has a very shabby appearance. 3 months later, he made an application under the Right to Information Act. He submitted his application, and on the 4th day of his submission of application, a food inspector came to his house and said that your card is ready, why don't you come and collect it? And when he went to collect his card, the food and supply officer, who is the head of a district, he escorted Nannu to his room, offered him tea, gave him his card, and requested that please take back your application under the Right to Information Act. Now the same Nannu, who was running around for the last 3 months, who was a persona non grata in the eyes of those officers, suddenly becomes a VIP. How did this magic happen? What did Nannu ask in his application? Nannu asked that I made an application for a duplicate ration card on such and such date. Please tell me the daily progress made on my application so far. Number 2, please tell me the names and designations of the officials who were supposed to take action on my application and who have not done so. Number 3, are these officials guilty of violating the rules? If yes, what action will be taken against them and by when? And number 4, by when will I get my card now? Now, on ordinary circumstances, such an application will be thrown in the dustbin. But this law says that they have to reply in 30 days time, otherwise their salary would be deducted from 31st day. So it's not easy to answer these questions. The first question is, please give me the daily progress made on my application so far. The moment they give the daily progress, there is no progress made in the last 3 months. But the moment they write this in that many words, it is admission of guilt on paper. And no government servant can write it in that many words. Second question is, please give me the daily progress made on my application so far. Please give me the names and designations of the officials who were supposed to take action and not done so. The moment they write the names and designations of the officials, the responsibility gets fixed. And any government servant is most scared if responsibility gets fixed against him on paper. So the moment you file an application like this, immediately they end up doing your job. If this had been only Nannu, we would have thought this was some kind of an exception. We encouraged many people in electricity department in Delhi. It used to be almost impossible to get any work done without paying bribes. Whether it's a new electricity connection, or it's a faulty meter, or it's a faulty bill, anything you had to get done, it was impossible. We encouraged almost 200 people in about 3 months' time to file similar applications, the people who were running for the last several months. And I remember the first case that we did under the Right to Information was that of a person called Ashok Gupta, who came to our office and he said that for the last 2 years, he made an application for a new electricity connection in 2000. And for 2 years he was running around and they asked him for a 5,000 rupees bribe. He refused to pay a bribe, and as a result he didn't get a new electricity connection for 2 years. And in February 2002, he made an application under the Right to Information Act, and within 10 days of his filing an application, he got his new electricity connection. And we got about 200 people file similar applications. The people who are running for the last several months in electricity department, almost everyone's job was done within a matter of 10 to 15 days time. For a moment we thought this was some kind of a magic wand which came in the hands of the people. You just use it and your work gets done. So we started encouraging people to use it in every government department, whether it's water department, electricity department, social welfare, ration card, any department. If you had any pending work, and people used right information, their work was immediately done. There is a case last year of a person who, Prem Sharma, he wanted to go to Germany. He applied for a passport, and according to the rules he should have got his passport in 45 days time. For 6 months he kept running around. They didn't give a passport. And 6 months later he made an application under the Right to Information Act. He took that application to the passport officer for submitting. The passport officer read that application and said, "This is my cell phone, this is my son's cell phone, and this is my residence number. If you don't get your passport in 7 days time, please let me know and we will take action on that, but please don't file this application." I have personally benefited using right to information in several ways. In fact, in my house now, if anything goes wrong and if there's a government agency involved, my mother starts saying, "Let's use right to information." I have a cell phone. It's an MTNL phone, and everyone knows MTNL is a government agency. And on that MTNL phone, if you want a long distance call connection, STD connection, you have to make a separate application. And you have to deposit a fees for that. So I made a separate application last year in August, and according to the rules, it should have been energized in 48 hours. It wasn't done. So I sent a person, and that person kept running around for the next 3 months. Some inspector wrote on the file that it was a Benami phone. Now I exist, my phone exists, and my residence also exists. How could it be a Benami phone? On 13th October, when this law was passed, on 15th, and then MTNL also came in the domain of this law. On 15th October, I made an application under the Right to Information Act, and within 24 hours, my STD connection was energized. So we thought, in our entire use of right to information in the last few years, right to information affects every sphere of governance, and I'll be giving you several examples of that. But we found that there's a narrow usage of Right to Information Act, wherein if you have any legitimate work pending in any government department, now you don't need to pay bribes anymore. So we thought it's maybe a few hundred, few thousand people across the country who know about it. So why not just spread this message very aggressively all over the country, and it really make a change in governance. So in order to do that, this July, from 1st July to 15th July, we did a nationwide campaign all across the country, wherein we partnered with 8 media houses, including NDTV, Hindustan Times, and Hindu newspaper at national level, and there were 5 regional newspapers, 1 Marathi newspaper, 1 Telugu newspaper, 1 Odia newspaper, and there were 2 other Hindi newspapers. And a call was given to the entire nation that now you don't need to pay bribes in India. Use right to information, it works, it's more effective than bribery. And 700 organizations were brought in, about 1500 volunteers from these 700 organizations. They were trained on how to help people in filing RTI applications. And in these 15 days, more than 22,000 people filed RTI applications, and we have several success stories from all across the country on how just merely filing an RTI application did the trick. I'll just share a couple of examples with you.